Hello, my name is Cassandra Vargas, and today I will be reviewing the 1981 drama musical film Zoot, written and directed by Luis Valdez, executive produced by Peter Burrell and released by Universal Studios Productions, starring Daniel Valdez and Edward James Olmos, along with many other recognizing actors such as Lupe Ontiveros, who co-stars in Selena, The Goonies, and Mi Familia, and Rose Portillo, who co-stars in Walk Proud and Encanto. This film is based on a true story regarding the Sleepy Lagoon murder trial, which led a group of young Mexican-American men to be unfairly prosecuted and imprisoned for a murder they did not commit. It sets in a barrio of Los Angeles during the early 1940s, with rising tensions of Zoot riots, gang violence, and World War II. With the pressures and prejudice against Mexican-Americans, Valdez's character faces challenges and manifests his self-conscious, played by Olmos, who influences his decisions and critical thinking. In this film review, I will be discussing how Zoot is one of the many Chicano films that brought a historical context about the discrimination and unfair treatment Mexican Americans faced during prejudice times. The film captures elements of teatro and cinematic practices of Chicano film, all while being conscious of how they mainstream Latinos on the big screen. Cultural presentation helped fight and control the Hollywood narrative of how brown-skinned individuals are depicted as incriminated and antagonists. Most films produced independently or with actors who target a specific demographic tend to have a minimal budget. While the film had a $2.7 million budget, films coming out the same year had 8 times the amount of a movie budget, such as The Legend of the Lone Ranger and The Great Muppet Caper. John A. Noriega explains in his article Between a Weapon and a Formula that the use of teatro was not just an economic response, but rather one's manifestation of racachismo, meaning that the film techniques created more characteristics to fulfill the movie as opposed to other big productions. With this strategy, multiple points of views and active camera movements like close-ups would help tell this underdog storyline. The lens focuses on how the Chicano community sees the rest of the world and uses elements like juxtaposition and integration to signal empowerment and resistance. Aside from the theatral perspective, Noriega's article also mentions resistance, maintenance, and affirmation as the defining elements of Chicano culture. He refers to it as Chicanismo, a formal dialect within Chicano cinema. Please look at the beginning scene of Zoot, which starts in this theater stage designed as a nightclub, and there is a mix of individuals dressed in their Zoot suits, but not just Mexican Americans.
Hey man, you call that dancing?
You see them all dancing and throwing sneers, sounds, and remarks at one another. Then Edward James Olmos' character begins his intro song and monologue, speaking directly to the audience and giving an explanation of what a pachuco is and how a suit became symbolic of resistance to Americanization. Noriega continues by breaking down the 4 primary cinematic practices within Chicano films: production, exhibition, signification, and reception. As we all know, theatrical productions coincide with the saying, make do with what is available. Most of the film is like a theater musical performance, giving the illusion that there are multiple design sets for a theater stage. There are scenes featuring audience members and the actors performing among them, but there are also standard cinematic shots. In those cinematic shots, it became symbolic because those are the more serious, self-reflecting moments that Henry, David Valdez's character, had with El Pachuco, his conscience. Reception is established thoroughly in the film based on language, gender position, and culture. The director Luis Valdez did a fantastic job as far as representation. Again, keep in mind that the film is trying to break those stereotypical Hollywood narratives that have put a negative impact on the Chicano community. The female roles are perceived as tough and loyal to their family members and partners rather than damsels in distress. Mr. Valdez added in Spanish Pachuco dialect with common slang words used within our community, such as órale, ese, carnal, huisa, and more. The cultural elements flow with the songs, dance styles, background setups, and even the fun-loving dialect between the characters. However, Edward James Olmos adds more flavor to El Pachuco. The way he walked, talked, and even made his presence known in every scene made an impression and a distraction. It was what Henry wanted to be, but El Pachuco, Olmos's character, reminded Henry the harsh reality of the consequences of being a Pachuco. El Pachuco was his savior and his identity crisis in more ways than he can count. It then leads to the film's significance in Hollywood and the Chicano community. Given that the film is constructed from a true story, Mr. Valdez was able to reclaim the narrative, not just historically, but also culturally. He brought the Pachuco lifestyle into a big screen with a different perspective, not just focusing on the riots, but the bigotry before and during all the protesting. It also signifies our government's cultural, moral, and judicial crisis. So how does the film exhibit after its release? Well, in 2019, the Library of Congress selected the film for preservation under the United States National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. I would also list this film as an effect of social change in Jason C. Johnson's Note on Chicano Cinema. This film can educate and reach a broad audience about the revolutionary process before the Chicano movement. The types of media that have since been released allow Latinos to create their storylines, resulting in achievements and prosperity. Something concerning in Greg Barrios' article, A Cinema of Failure, A Cinema of Hunger, mentions how for every Chicano that wants to get educated or aspire to greater heights, there are those who never leave and live fast only to die at an early age. At the beginning of the film, Henry wants to join the Navy to prove his patriotism to his country, but there's still a war to fight in his barrio against his government. There's an excellent scene with El Pachuco and Henry bringing him to a final understanding of what his place is living in the United States. Check out this clip.
That's it, fight, sucker, come on! Come on! Ganged up on me, carnal. You left me and they ganged up on me. Why? Why did you take me with you? I was at the Sleepy Lagoon. I was there throwing chingazos like everybody else. Went to the beach and danced with Bertha. I was wearing your zoot suit. All chingon in your tacuche. You stripped me. Stripped me, carnal. You stripped me.
After Henry is released from jail, his brother leaves the barrio to join the Marines, and Henry's ending is left open-ended. He either returns to prison, dies at war, or lives happily with his wife and children. The mainstream in Latinos has allowed us to change our endings, speak our native language, and create authenticity made by our people. I think about the interview article with Moctezuma Esparza and his goal to support Latino films, such as retail development, entertainment venues, jobs, and revitalization. He also sought to use his platform to produce Latin American, Spanish, and English films. I'm sure he would approve the take on Zoot with his like-minded creativeness and close relationship with Edward James Olmos and Luis Valdez. Identifying mise-en-scène essential elements from the film were through the attire, language, and stage settings. This means that the suits are typically made with quality fabric and signified a social status of the middle working class. Most immigrants that first came to the States were considered poor and dirty, something untrue because proper hygiene was incorporated within Aztec and Mayan culture and the ritual of preparations for daily or eventful functions. Wearing the suit created a presentable image and unique style that would signify the Pachuco wear and rebel against Americanization. The same follows with the women's attire, to wear pants or bright fitted colored dresses and skirts. Sometimes they would add chains to their skirts and pants. There's some modernism to their hairstyles post-Mexican Revolution, with hair pieces and braids and how they tease their hair to make the bump. The genuine dialect between characters also built that foundation of authentic experience throughout the film. Something not just seen in the script, but the stage as well. The best scene I think that would represent this is when Henry and his family are having dinner before he and his siblings go out for the night. During LA 1940s, you see the glitz and glam of how fast America is evolving, the barrio, and even up to the point when Henry goes to jail. Within camera shots, the surroundings became what the character is perceived for each scene. The brother/son, the dancer, the romantic, the leader, and the criminal. In conclusion, Zoot has become an influential film within the Chicano community, and it retells the hardships of how Pachucos grew to become resilient and iconic. Under all the negative narratives Hollywood created about Mexicans, Luis Valdez captured our authenticity with a well-presented Chicano film. His cinematic practices, use of teatro, and Chicano representation exposed our community in the film industry, that we're not all just criminals and we are just as American and hardworking. Well, that is it for my video. Thank you for tuning into my film review, and I hope this video helped bring a little bit of awareness about Chicano history. Thank you.